History, perhaps, is prologue. If indeed the past sets the stage for what comes next, we have a unique and beautiful example to follow in the life and career of one whose simple and humble declaration is, "I love mentoring." In her memoir, Dr. Scantlebury-White describes the impact that she wants her story to have, particularly on younger people. And I paraphrase. She wants to provide hope when there is fear and help in seeing possibilities instead of barriers. In other words, the courage to go beyond all our large, visible, and invisible walls in pursuit of dreams. Finally, I am tasked with thanking all who provided special support in planning this event and promoting it in the community. Most are noted in the printed program, and since again, I can't give you hugs and kisses, which would be my preference, please accept my sincere gratitude for your support and the promise of a special evening in recognition of Dr. Velma's amazing journey. The celebration has begun. I'm followed at the mic by my colleague, Brianna Denby, who's going to do the important work of thanking individuals.
And thank you, Dr. Melva Ware. Again, my name is Brianna Denby, and I'm an attorney with the law firm of Cohen Seglius, and I am a trustee member of the Historical Society and a member of the Advisory Council for the Mitchell Center for African American Heritage, and co-chair for tonight's event. The Board of Trustees for the Historical Society and Mitchell Center Advisory Council is comprised of a number of professionals from a wide range of industries and disciplines across the state who work to further the mission of the organization, to preserve, promote, and share Delaware's history in a welcoming environment to educate, inspire, and empower people and communities. On behalf of the Board of Trustees and Advisory Council, I want to give a warm thank you to our generous sponsors. Starting first with our corporate sponsors, Highmark Delaware, Christiana Care, M&T Bank, Wilmington Trust, CSC, our media sponsor, Delaware Today, and our beverage sponsor, McBride Sisters. I also want to say a warm thank you for our table sponsors and sustaining sponsors. Their names, in the interest of time, are in the program book on page 13. And we acknowledge those businesses and individuals who were so kind to give those donations. I also want to give a warm thank you for our distinguished guests who joined us this evening, honoring Dr. Scantlebury-White. Senator Tom Carper, Senator Chris Coons, Congresswoman Lisa Blunt Rochester, Governor John Carney, Lieutenant Governor of Delaware, Bethany Hall Long, State Representative Stephanie T. Bolden, State Representative Melissa Minor Brown, State Treasurer Colleen Davis, and retired State Senator, the Honorable Nancy Cook. I didn't see the mayor, but I will honor him also because he certainly contributed to the event as well. The mayor of the city of Wilmington, Mike Przicki, and any other elected officials that I may have missed, please stand to be recognized or wave your hand. I also want to acknowledge Mr. Mackie Holder, who's the Consul General of Barbados, who came all the way down to Delaware from New York. He is here tonight. And I also want to take a moment of personal privilege to acknowledge Dick and Eliza Poole. They were very active members of the Delaware community and lifelong art lovers and collectors. Unfortunately, Mr. Poole passed away in April 2015, and Mrs. Poole passed away recently, late of March 2020. The Pooles were generous donors to the Historical Society's capital campaign, which provided the funding to renovate the building that we sit in today. And if you walk out of this building, you'll see a small placard that says Poole Hall. So this building was really renamed for them for their generous contributions to renovate this important space. While they are no longer with us, it is donations like that that allow us to preserve Delaware's history for others to enjoy. I want to again send a thank you to my co-chair, Dr. Melva Ware, and the honorary committee who worked with us to make tonight's event very personal and very special, and I thank you as well. So without further ado, I turn it over to Reverend Dr. Sylvester Beeman for the invocation. And at the conclusion of the invocation, please wait for the announcement of your table to begin your dinner. Thank you.
Eternal and everlasting God, with heads bowed and hearts humbled, we invoke your divine presence in this Delaware History Makers Award ceremony honoring Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White. It is fitting, God, that we would begin this celebration invoking your name, because Dr. Scantlebury-White confesses to be your child. And God, throughout her stellar career, academically, vocationally, and as a surgeon, she has prayed and asked for your guidance. And so God, as we celebrate her, it would be fitting that we celebrate you. We invite you to be an integral part in every aspect of what is said and done today. We will talk about Dr. Scantlebury-White, but note this: she points her hands and her hearts towards you, saying, God, that you have blessed and graced her life. Bless, continue her marriage, her children, and their future. God, whatever she sets her hands to, would you also bless that? And God, will be careful to give you the praise throughout this evening. You are worthy to be praised. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.
All right. Go for it. Okay. All right, Jonathan. All right. Welcome, and I want to thank you all. Now that we're about to start the program portion of our affair tonight, I want to begin and thank you all for coming. I want to thank our incredible co-chairs of this event, Dr. Melva Ware and Brianna Denby. When they set the tone, you know how much this means to them and how much it means to us to honor Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White. I'm David Young. I'm the Executive Director of the Delaware Historical Society. And on behalf of our Board of Trustees and the entire staff of the Delaware Historical Society who worked tirelessly to pull this program together, led by Rachel Mead, I welcome you. But to start our program, I wish to open with a statement we read at the outset of all our Delaware Historical Society programs. It's a land acknowledgement that we worked with Chief Dennis Coker of the Lenape tribe of Delaware, and we read it at all of our programs. And I'd like you to consider these words. We begin by acknowledging with respect that we gather today in Lenape-Hocking, traditional homeland of the Lenape people, for tens of thousands of years. Sometimes translated original people, the Lenape were known as mediators and called the grandfathers. Encompassing the Delaware River Basin, Lenape-Hocking includes present-day New Jersey, most of Delaware, the eastern parts of New York and Pennsylvania, and was home to 20,000 Lenape. Within the first 100 years of foreign contact, 80% of the Lenape had already died from violent conflict or disease. Europeans forced the Lenape westward and northward to Oklahoma, Wisconsin, and Ontario, and many of the descendants have today taken the name pronounced Delaware. But some Lenape never left, and hiding in plain sight are the keepers of the land, the Lenape Indian tribe of Delaware, based in Cheswold, Delaware, the Nanticoke Lenape tribal nation in Bridgeton, New Jersey, and the Ramapo Lenape Nation in Mahwah, New Jersey, are all three part of the thriving Lenape communities today. Let us acknowledge the historical and ongoing presence of the Lenape and the Nanticoke on this land where we now live, work, and celebrate all our relations. This is the History Makers Award, and as Dr. Ware spoke to, the event goes back to 2007. And we've honored civic leaders and path-breaking organizations who have made a difference, including native Delawareans like the late Governor Pete DuPont and Brian Stevenson, as well as historians, faith leaders, and even major institutions like Dogfish Head Brewing. This year's honoree is the first woman of color honored as an individual history maker. In the past, the event was always held at the Chase Center, the big conference hall down on the riverfront, until 2018, when we held it on our Wilmington campus in Old Town Hall and in the Delaware History Museums that had just been newly renovated. And here on our Wilmington campus we are tonight. But this 2021 event is unlike any other. Live streamed, indoor and outdoor. We've even opened the doors to Old Town Hall to honor this year's honoree. And doing so tonight is especially fitting because this has been a year unlike any other. Global pandemic, closed and shuttered venues and restaurants, museums, public health issues, economic downturn, and disparity of who was infected and who got care for COVID. Minority communities were disproportionately affected, leading to unprecedented stress and grief. And yet on the positive side, this whole 570 days of pandemic have allowed us to learn new ways of knowing and new ways of measuring what truly matters to us. We learned that everything we can have can go away rapidly. So it means that anything we do matters, and what matters should be preserved and shared. It is also fitting that we have an honoree unlike any other. And we had planned to honor this honoree long before COVID. In October 2019, we started our planning with Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White, long before the pandemic. So we were ahead of the curve, Doctor. And our honoree is a pioneering medical professional with an international impact through her life and her work. She's also an author of children's books, a role model of best practices for leadership and service above self. Her involvement in Black Doctors Against COVID in Philadelphia helped fight through the fear and anxiety to care and support the sick, demonstrating great sacrifice and courage. And no other honoree has been such a part of our programming at the Historical Society. Dr. Velma participated in a program called Realities from the Front Lines, where doctors and nurses on the front lines describe the situation as like being ready for war. Even our storefront windows involve Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White and our honoree's picture, inspiring people to become organ donors and to suggest who is a Delaware history maker. You'll note that most of the nominations are for Miss B.B. Coker. I'm told our honoree was in line for an event next door at the Queen over the weekend, and people were coming up and pointing out how cool her picture was in the museum windows. How meta is that? You are here tonight to honor a person unlike any other because you are supporting a historical society unlike any other. Not every historical society has a center dedicated to African American heritage, demonstrating our commitment to diversity with the Mitchell Center for African American Heritage and the newly minted Delaware Center for Jewish History across the street at the 1801 Cox House. Not many historical societies are as committed to ethnic heritage to have centers in their own campus to showcase the varieties of ways that all Delawareans are told in this institution. We publish the Delaware History Journal, and our exhibitions showcase all Delaware's history, and we do not shy away from the history that does not reflect well on us, like the 1968 occupation or school segregation or the whipping post. The Mitchell Center immediately pivoted during the racial unrest after the deaths of George Floyd and many others to conduct community conversations and dialogue about the history of racial intolerance in our communities. Nor did we turtle up during the pandemic. We completed nearly $2 million in preservation projects, activating our historic buildings, all 9 of them, and enhanced access to our collections with upgrades to our website and digital collections that bring our research library to a state-of-the-art level of research and access. You'll be seeing more of this soon as we reveal important objects in our collection, bringing greater reach and diversity to the 5 centuries of history we steward with 3+ million documents, images, and artifacts. We pivoted to virtual and digital programs, virtual field trips, educational packets that reach teachers in Hawaii and Alaska who are downloading the work that we have showing the importance of Delaware history, and involving compelling artistic and interpretive programs in Wilmington and in Newcastle at the Reed House and Gardens. We are reaching national audiences, and during the pandemic, we've actually grown our national audiences. We also collected accounts of people's experiences with the pandemic in an innovative blog program called the COVID Chronicles Delaware, where people submitted their own experiences with the pandemic, often poignant, artistic, and therapeutic, as we asked people to consider themselves to be the primary source. During the past year, a former Delaware history maker became the 46th President of the United States, placing Secret Service snipers on our buildings and putting Wilmington and all of Delaware history in the spotlight. It is our vision to make Delaware history impossible to ignore. This historical society preserves, promotes, and shares Delaware history in a welcoming environment to educate, inspire people, and empower people and communities. All historical societies are in it for the long game, to think in terms of decades and centuries. But we've waited long enough, 17 months. Tonight, we can't think of a person who exemplifies our mission better than Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White, who has educated, inspired, and empowered people and communities for her entire career, and especially during a year when we needed it most. Thank you very much. In addition to acknowledging all the public officials who have been generous in coming here tonight, it's my great honor to introduce Dr. Bethany Hall-Long, who's our Lieutenant Governor, and she herself is a practicing medical professional with a long history with our honoree tonight, and I'd like her to invite her up to make a special proclamation.
All right, good evening. It is especially important to be here, and let's give a warm round of applause to the leadership here of the Historic Society of Delaware. Thank you to you and the board, and to those in the other room. We are COVID safe. I showed my vaccine card. I had my temperature checked by one of my students from 23 years ago at UD, Ms. Lloyd. And we're here safely. I would love it if our award winner would join me on the stage, because I'm going to present from our governor and I. He is not able to be here at the moment, this incredible proclamation to this special, inspiring, global trailblazer, but most importantly, someone who pays it forward and who cares deeply. And to her husband and family who were here, thank you for sharing her with us. And to the Consulate General who came here representing Barbados, thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Thank you. Would you like him to join us on stage? So look, she doesn't want, she's all about business. She wants me to get right to it. I know. All of you with the National Medical Association, give me a wave. Oh, I love all of you, and so does Governor Carney, and so does this woman, because she has been such an active representative during this past 19 months during COVID. I just cannot thank you enough. I'm not going to read every word here because we have a word presentation. If you haven't had a chance, take a look at that bio. It doesn't get any better than this. It does not get any better than this. And the fact that we are here during this pandemic, and that we started the night talking about in the 1918 pandemic, they probably congregated in this building, and here we are honoring you as such a servant. So on behalf of, this happened this year too. I don't know how these came along. Something's happening. To my colleagues in the other room, former Senator Nancy Cook, Representative Minor Brown, Representative Stephanie T. Bolden, and our Treasurer Colleen Davis. I know they would love to be standing here with me. So they are here, but we're Zooming them in the other room. How's that? So on behalf of Governor John Carney, State of Delaware, Bethany Hall-Long, myself, we are so pleased to present to Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White for the first state's recognition for the Delaware Historic Society's 13th Delaware History Makers Award to Dr. Scantlebury-White, the first African-American woman to get this award and to practice and be a transplant surgeon in the United States. All of her bio, it is just so impressive. Traveling, though, and coming from Barbados to our country, working where I think it matters the most, and all of you do, with after she left Yale and Columbia, she hit her major surgical, residency at Harlem Hospital, going to where people needed her the most. And then during this time, she didn't let people stop her, and that's what we love. She broke barriers by doing this and leading into the community by becoming part of the active associate director with surgical team for kidney transplant and saving lives. It's not in here, but I did a little background. Over 2,000 transplants, 86 professional organizations. Come on, 86 publications. 86 publications, and this isn't all in here, but it just touched my heart because I know as a nurse holding the hand of someone who doesn't know if they're going to see tomorrow, many times, best doctors of America, she's been on that list. Best. And we acknowledge that here, and for the quality of life and the impact. I mean, we could just go on, and I know the award Peg in a moment is probably going to say a little bit of this too. But what inspires me the most is the tireless ability to give to others. I know when I'm on a Zoom with Dr. McIntosh and Dr. Coker and Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White, she sets people straight during this pandemic. And those of you who worked for her, I have a feeling the nurses and the techs, they were on it with her, because she has been on it, but she leads with her heart. On behalf of Governor Carney and I, again, I could say so many things, as could the other electeds. We just thank you from the bottom of our heart, and we are so thrilled that you had the foresight to recognize this moment before the pandemic. And I can't wait to see those things in the future. And again, thank you. And it's signed by Governor John C. Carney, myself, Bethany Hall Long. And I just appreciate this. And I know this is going to go in her home. You must have a whole room dedicated to plaques and pictures and awards. But this is special because this is our Delaware, the finest state with our art, and it is the best. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. We'll do this. And you can take this. There you are. Picture. All right. Thank you.
So, Dr. Velma, stay up here.
Stay up here because you got more to come. Now, if you want to bring your husband or anybody up here, you can feel free to do that too. Do you want to come up, Mr. White? He's like, He's like, He's saying, he's handed it to you. I do that sometimes to embarrass my husband. See, you're just like my husband. Must be something about the people we attract, right? They have our back. All right, next we have an awesome award presentation that's going to be presented by the board president, Dr. Margaret Laird, who goes by Peg. Peg, we'll turn this to you. I'll let you hold that. Thanks.
Thank you. I also am a doctor, but not that kind of doctor. So, so if you need some help with Latin or anything like that, it's me. So I'm Peg Laird. I'm the chair of the board of the Delaware Historical Society, and I am so happy to be here with you all tonight. Finally, after 2 years, this is really worth the wait, and I can't think of a better person to honor. I also want to thank Dr. Melva Ware and Brianna Denby, fantastic co-chairs, members of the committee, with your wonderful husband who gave us lots of, I hope those photographs were, you're like, why do you need that photograph from? And all of the trustees of the Delaware Historical Society who have come out tonight. But really the person who we need to thank the most is you. Through your work, your perseverance, your field. You gave yourself and your talents to your patients. You've made an incredible difference in the lives of so many people. Like our Lieutenant Governor said, lives have been continued because of your work. And you weren't content there. You shared yourself, and you shared your knowledge, both through your scientific publications and through your more popular publications, which is a really important facet and not something that professionals naturally do. You've inspired young people to follow in your footsteps and to continue making a difference. And you have also encouraged people to donate organs, which is so important to do. And I also love that you've inspired children to write a book about you as well, which the illustrations are charming and really wonderful. And also your work, your continued work throughout the last year to bring health and safety and comfort to people who really needed it. You are an exceptional human being.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So it is my incredible pleasure to award you as this year's and last year's too. Let's just to name to name you this year's Delaware History Maker, Dr. Velma Scantlebury-White.
Thank you all so much. So good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and I just am humbled and speechless for what was said and this outstanding award and this proclamation from Dr. Bethany Long. And it is an honor and a privilege to be chosen by the Delaware Historical Society as the not only 2020, but 2021 History Makers Award. So it is definitely because of COVID and having had to deal with the shutdown of that pandemic in 2020, we're now finally here to celebrate on this wonderful occasion. So we have truly come a long way since that 17 months ago. And thanks to the rollout of our vaccines, various COVID vaccines, we can come together on this occasion and be in this room celebrating this wonderful occasion. So thank you so much. I now stand before you as the newest member of this distinguished group of wonderful men and women from Delaware, such as we heard before, the Honorable Pierre DuPont, the Honorable Michael Castle, the former Republican governor of Delaware, Reverend Canon Lloyd Casson, as well as Brian Steverson, the civil rights activist and lawyer born right here in Milton, Delaware. And I would truly be remiss if I did not give homage to our own President of the United States, President Joseph R. Biden, who was honored as the recipient of this History Makers Award in 2009, while he was Vice President under President Barack Obama. So I'm really looking forward to the reunion where I can actually, we can all come back together and be in the same club. Isn't that amazing? I can tell my grandchildren that I actually was in the same society with our president. So this is some really great awesomeness. And even so, I wasn't actually born in Delaware. I was actually born in Barbados, but I did meet the requirements for this Delaware History Makers Award because I actually lived here for 12 years. And my journey to Delaware began with my brother, who actually lived in Delaware as my family in New York would say, Delaware. And he invited me to apply for a job at Christiana Care for a vacancy that they had for a transplant surgeon. And I got one of those, oh, thank you very much, no thank you, we've already filled the spot letter. And I said, okay, that God has other plans for me. But then he decided, well, I guess Delaware wasn't so bad, it's close to New York. And so they called me back and they said, are you still interested in this job? So I have to say that God placed me in the right place and allowed me to come here to Delaware. The first person, I would say, part of his plan for me was really in medical school when I met the very first female surgeon. And she was a pediatric surgeon. She was fierce and she was dynamic, and I just wanted to be just like her. And she saw my skills and not my color. She was my mentor, she was my sponsor. And 7 years later, I was on my way to University of Pittsburgh for what I thought was pursuing a career to becoming a pediatric surgeon. Little did I realize that I would be swayed by transplantation research and the ability to operate on kids and remove livers and kidneys and do such wonderful things and save lives. And so that was the direction that God pointed me to. And so 32 years ago, I became the very first Black female transplant surgeon. And I can say probably in the world, because I don't know of any other country who has surpassed the United States, maybe Russia or China, but they're not Black. So there you have it. And so it wasn't by my own powers, it really was through the grace and blessings of God and the Almighty who really guided me, gave me that skill to be able to help others. And it was, for me, those years becoming a fellow and a young attendant was a time when Black women in surgery were few and far between, except for maybe outside of Black institutions. So the struggle was real. The racism was real. The rejection was real. The discrimination was there for all women, but especially for Black and brown women. The space, I got the feeling, was not intended for us. There were no female locker rooms. The doctor's locker room was through the male locker room, so that was a presumption. And so I was often told that there were other careers better suited for me. But we've made a lot of progress since then, but we still have a long way to go. I bet especially when it comes to bringing Black women to the table. I remember discussing Sheryl Sandberg's book, Lean In, at a meeting with a group of female surgeons, with me being the only person of color, and everyone talking about this, the advantage and the ability to do these things. And I'm sitting there feeling like I cannot even get the recognition I deserve because of my talents to even be invited to the table, more or less lean in. First you have to be seated to lean in. And first I have to get my feet in the door. And that was my goal. Let me get to the door. You know, Shirley Chisholm said, when you're not invited, bring your chair, pull it up and, come to the table. But the door has to be open for you. Maybe they are not locked from the inside. So 2020 was unraveled the injustices of COVID-19 and the unmasking of healthcare. But what it did was it also allowed us to really talk about diversity, really talk about equity when it comes for people of color and the disadvantaged and those with disabilities, and the need for inclusion, and the need to be invited to meet at the board meetings, to be in the room. And while it is uncomfortable conversation around racism and gender and inequity and unequal pay, there's also that daily emotional tax of microaggressions and the internalized oppression that we have to deal with. So not only did we have the unraveling of inequities, but we also unmasked the health and racial disparities that we knew existed, but failed to acknowledge for so many years. And if you didn't know what it was before, I hope that you and everyone know what social determinants of health are and the role they play in healthcare and health outcomes. A few months ago, we heard about the COVID Chronicles of Delaware, where we had presented by the Mitchell Center for African American Heritage and the realities of those on the front lines. And this was a discussion of healthcare doctors and nurses, discussing the impact on a personal level of how COVID affected them and the emotional toil it plays taking care of patients and feeling helpless or seeing the need to not be able to do anything. So now we've gone past that COVID pandemic, but now we have the pandemic of the unvaccinated. I'm grateful that everyone here today is vaccinated, and we can have these events because we are vaccinated. And we're grateful for all those who fought against COVID, to the researchers and the families who participated. And we're here today because of that. And we can take advantage of this wonderful affair, but we continue to wear our masks and because the threat is still there. We still face continued mutations of this virus, and we do not want to let our guard down. We need to continue to mask up. So when we remember 2020, we will never forget COVID-19 pandemic, but let us also not forget the health and social injustices that were unmasked, which still exist and now the focus of attention. I am extremely grateful for the work of the Delaware Historical Society has done in the past and the recognition of my work and my contribution, especially to the field of surgery and transplantation. We know that organ donation saved lives, and to be able to play a role in such a remarkable field, to be able to save lives, to see this transformation of patients who have renewed leash on life, who can now go back to work, kids who can complete their degrees, mothers and fathers who can watch their children graduate and go on to be grandparents. From my humble beginnings growing up in Barbados, one of 7 children, I give thanks to my parents who were determined to see that I attended college when we first moved to Brooklyn. I was the first in my family to complete a college education. I'm here today because of them. I'm here today because of my mentors and the sponsors who made this path possible, and the shoulders of those who suffered in many ways to begin to allow me the privilege of becoming a transplant surgeon. To Dr. Thomas Starzl, who was the founder of liver transplantation, who, when he was continually looking for a way to save lives, failure after failure, they told him to give up, that his operations were going to be just hopeless. But he persisted. And because of that, we now have the ability to say that thousands and thousands of people's lives have been saved because of his willingness to pursue and develop the skill of liver transplantation. And so for that, those are things because of the sacrifice of people like him, for those donor families who are willing to give of their loved ones, I am able to have a career in transplantation, to be able to save so many lives. And for those patients who initially didn't want me to operate on them, afterwards they woke up and they said, I'm still alive. We must have done a damn good job. So. And so I am here today also because of my loving husband, Harvey White, who I have. And my family, my sister, Kathleen, my brother, Michael, and his wife, Stella, to my children, Akila and Aisha, to my cousin, Curtis, and his wife, Cindy, and to my friend, Rochelle, and Elise, and her husband, Charles, and the Mr. Honorable Mackey Holder and his wife from New York. He thought he was going to Maryland, but I had to correct him and told him, if you drive too fast, you might miss Delaware, but make sure you stop. And to all my friends here tonight, to the NMA, my colleagues who have come here to help me celebrate, to my Delta sorors, thank you for coming. To the Archons and Akusai of Beta, Ada Boulay, thank you so much for attending, and for all of you if I forgot anyone, don't blame it on my heart, blame it on my mind. But I am deeply honored to be here tonight and to say that I am the first Black female recipient of the Delaware History Makers. Thank you. The Link, sorry, my Link sisters, sorry, where's my Link sisters? You know, blame it on my heart. To my Link sisters, thank you so much. I really can't see anybody out there, so it's all a blur, but thank you for everyone. It's very rare that you have an event that's you're the main focus. There's always someone else sharing the spotlight with you, but this is my spotlight. This is my day. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now it's time for dessert, and we have a special surprise because we're going to toast Dr. Velma outside where the cake is, and I hope you'll be able to adjourn and we can get some action outside under the tent with Dr. Sanford. Please come on up and lead us on to the next portion of our event. Thank you.
Can we just have another round of applause for Dr. Scantlebury, please? So my name is Ayla Stanford, and I am a board-certified pediatric surgeon and adult surgeon, and founder of the Black Doctors COVID-19 Consortium. But what many of you don't know about me is that 20 years ago, when I was 20-something years old, I was a resident in Pittsburgh. And I had just come from Brooklyn, and I wanted to be a pediatric surgeon, and Pittsburgh was the best place to go, and I had applied to get a research fellowship, and there I landed. And I'm from North Philly, and then I was at Penn State, and then I was in Brooklyn, and then I landed in Pittsburgh. And there was not a lot of folks who looked like me, and I met Dr. Scantlebury. And from the moment I saw her, she took care of me, she looked out for me. I was across the table from her in the operating room. The other attendings would say negative things about me, and she had my back. Everyone assumed she was my mother because we were the only two Black women in the operating room, so it had to have been. The only reason why I was there was because of nepotism. So after a while, I just started saying, yes, that's my mother. But more than that, Harvey and Velma were like parents to me. Now I feel like sisters and brothers. It's interesting as you grow up, but they made room for me, they fed me, they gave me a home away from home. Akila and Aisha, I babysat them. You know, just looking at the pictures took me back. Some of those pictures I think I took, and you all, and brought me gifts and things, but without a Velma Scantlebury-White, there is no Ayla Stanford, okay? And when she talks about just not mentorship, but also sponsorship, that means putting your name on the line for someone else. That's what she did for me continually. And Pittsburgh was not, and for not even just Pittsburgh, but if you are a doctor of color, raise your hand in this room. There are 4.7% of doctors, according to the AMA, are African American. 4.7, and it is hard. It is so hard in all specialties, but especially ones like transplantation and surgery. We're constantly in the OR. It's not people calling you names, but why would you choose something so hard? You know your hands really aren't steady enough to be doing this. You know that stitch isn't right. You need to take it out over and over and over again. And patients also saying they don't want you. When's the doctor coming? Because they saw Dr. Scantlebury-White, when I came along, it was a little bit more palatable. And then when she was back on the East Coast, I said, yes. And then she said she was retiring. I said, don't do it. I need you. And again, could reach back and say, I'm starting this consortium. I don't know. I've never done a COVID test, but I can put in an NG tube and operate on a baby, so surely we can figure this out. And not once did she say, well, let me think about it. She said, what time and where? And because of that, we've been able to grow because they can call on Dr. Scantlebury. And it's tough when your teacher and you're the student. Every time I see an email from her, I'm like, oh, God. Like I'm supposed to be in charge, but you know if it's coming from her, everything stops. So I'm like, okay, let me do it. And so if I just, because you can read everything that's on the page and what's written, and the book isn't even long enough for all the things that she's done and all the lives that she's touched. But no one said she had to look out for me. No one said she had to look out for so many of us, that she had to take us to church, that she had to pray with us and for us, that she, when I say she cooked for us, that she, I mean, as a resident, and you all know what that was like, to have a home away from home where you could just be yourself. And I could have little sisters, and I don't have sisters, is something I will always, always, always treasure. And Harvey telling me stories about Africa and sororities, and I remember all of that, and all those memories flooded. And so I'm honored to say I'm one of the ones you trained. I'm honored that you sacrificed so much that I could achieve just a little. And so when people say, man, you've done this, it's because she set the bar of what excellence looks like. And I love you. And if you all didn't know, yesterday was her birthday. So we are gonna go outside and have a champagne toast and sing happy birthday, and we love you. Thank you so much.
That concludes our program portion. Let's adjourn for some dessert and some champagne and a little bit of singing. Thank you, Dr. Sanford.